Good evening. This special meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. As you know, we are in virtual form, so I will call you to be recognized, and then you'll be able to speak. Roll call. The clerk will call the roll of the members.
President Scott.
Present.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCray.
Present.
Councilman Dorsey.
Present.
There's an echo. If everybody could just mute yourself when you're not speaking. Councilman Henry.
Present.
Councilman Schleifer.
Here.
Vice President Middleton.
Present.
Councilman Pinkett.
Present.
Councilman Burnett. Councilman Bullock.
Present.
Councilman Reisinger.
Present.
Councilman Costello.
Present.
Councilman Stokes.
Present.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Here.
Councilwoman Clark.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Third reader for final passage.
City Council Bill 20-0528, Annual Property Tax, Fiscal Year 2021.
You have to read the whole title. There's no short title.
For the purpose of providing a tax for the use of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore for the period July 1, 2020 through June 30, 2021, providing for estimated billings pursuant to state law, and setting the semi-annual payment service charge for that period. President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
This bill is approved.
City Council Bill 20-0533, Operating Budget for the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, for the purpose of approving the budget estimated to be needed for the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for operating programs during fiscal 2021, providing for certification of the approved budget to the State Superintendent of Schools, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors: President Scott, Cohen, McCray, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Snead, Clark.
This bill is approved. Regular announcements. I will first ask that Council Vice President Middleton honor a moment of silence for the now 146 victims of homicide in Baltimore, all that we've lost to COVID and overdose as well. And I would also ask that she honor a moment of silence for a young man named Major Bullock, who his family actually lives on the line of the 5th and 6th District. It was a young man who I came to know and mentor when he was in high school, a baseball player at Dunbar. He ended up graduating from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore and passed away after a motorcycle accident last week. So I would like to have a moment of silence for such a wonderful young man. Regular announcements. Anyone else? Chair, Councilman Dorsey, and then Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the late Tyra Womack, who was murdered in front of her home in the 3rd District last week. The news reports that she put herself in the line of her son being shot, and thankfully he survived, but very tragically she did not. And so I want to recognize that and the trauma that has caused to the neighbors, considering it's believed that it was her next door neighbor who did it. I want to also just mention, because it's relevant to the budget, that in 2018, the voters of Baltimore City approved a measure to create the Office of the Inspector General as a charter amendment. And as a part of that, the advisory board to the Inspector General's office was established and required to meet annually in order to give preliminary overview and approval to the Office of the Inspector General's budget request as a critical part of ensuring that oversight is properly funded for all of our city agencies. That board, while not only that law, but the charter generally requires that boards meet at least once annually, that board has never met, despite also my having brought this to the attention of the city solicitor's office and the mayor's office long ago and repeatedly followed up about it. And so I hope that as we begin crafting the FY22 budget next year, that this does not get overlooked again. Thank you, Mr. Council President and colleagues.
I can assure you that it won't, Councilman Dorsey. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm very proud that this is my last budget meeting after all these 32 years, and it's been a very exciting and positive one, and that I hope that the members of this council who come back for the next term will be working toward the goals of being able to transfer money by then from cuts over to needs, that this work will progress, and I expect it to, because it's a great council, and there are a lot of great new people coming to join this council, and we're all counting on you out here who are about to become citizens in a couple months and call all the time to complain. I would like to, and I've already asked Madam Vice President to announce a moment of silence for two wonderful women who passed in the last few weeks. One was Rosa L. Barber. We call her Mother Barber. She's the mother of Corinthia Barber, who a lot of you may know from all of her leadership roles throughout the city and the Democratic Party. And she was, Miss Rosa was a star of Edna Gardens Lakeside and a wonderful mother and lived a great life, and we want to keep her in our heart and mind. Lorraine Mashinsky also passed. She was a very, very long time executive secretary of the city council, that little office right off the council chambers. And she was there all the time. I was president of the council, and a wonderful person, laughed all the time. But no wonder, look at what her job was. So delightful. A wonderful person, both of them. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilwoman Clark. As you know, I am very close and still remain very close with the family with Miss Rosa Barber, and I actually was debating on whether I was going to talk about this publicly. Actually, before COVID took hold of us all, her door was one of the last doors that I was able to knock on while campaigning and having a conversation with her through the door. I spent so many nights on that porch just in the shadow of Merville High School, and my last in-person church service was at Mount Pleasant, and the last thing I had to do there was wheel her out to her car, and she said that, well, I guess I'll talk to you later this week, and just always want to uplift her and her spirit, and we'll know that we will never forget her. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask the Vice President to do a moment of silence for Anthony Furnari Sr. Mr. Furnari was the father of the president of one of the community associations in the 4th District, Lake Easham's president, Teresa Furnari, but he was also a retired longtime city employee. He was a project manager in DPW, worked there from 1962 to 1992. So I wanted to ask for a moment of silence for his passing a few weeks ago. Also, to say I had not heard about Lorraine Lazinski's passing, and I joined with my colleague in remembering fondly another mutual colleague from the past. She brought a great attitude towards that job, as everyone who's held it since knows you have to bring a great attitude to that job, or you will go completely insane and have stomach problems. So I wanna take a moment to publicly thank Lorraine for helping to be one of my teachers in City Hall, and I'll miss her. Mr. President, I wanted to ask if you're going to still do committee announcements for those of us who didn't have them ready at the previous meeting.
I think that you are the last. Does anyone else have a regular announcement?
Mr. President, if possible, I'd like to speak to the dynamics of the budget and make the comment I was going to make.
Yep, go ahead, Councilman.
Appreciate that. Mr. President, I rise to implore of Mayor Young that he meets this moment, reimagines public safety, and reinvests the cuts that we just made into programs that could actually promote a healthy, safe, thriving Baltimore. Despite many of us screaming from the rooftops, a lot of people in our city don't know that the City Council cannot actually reallocate money from the budget. We can only cut. That should change, and we have a charter amendment to change it. But in its current status, the Council can only cut. I've been out, as have you, Mr. President, and many of the members of this Council, at the protests, marching in solidarity with our youth. The other day, myself, Councilmember Burnett, and our new colleague, Felicia Porter, held a listening session with some of the youth leaders from the protests. I want to share a little bit of what I heard from what they asked for. They said, fund our children, fund trauma and youth services, fund parks, fund rec centers, fund year-round youth jobs, fund programs like Safe Haven that support our trans sisters, brothers, and siblings, fund affordable housing, schools, fund teachers, fund PPE for first responders, fund municipal broadband to help close the digital divide, fund violence interruption programs like Safe Streets, fund the youth fund. What I have not heard is anyone say, put money back into the general fund in a fund balance, or give it to an extremely small property tax cut. That does not rise to the spirit of the moment that we are in. That does not rise to the greatness of our children who are leading this moment. So I implore Mayor Young to listen to the people that put us all in office, redistribute the money that has been cut, not as a slight to Commissioner Harrison or his department, but as an opportunity for us to reimagine public safety in our city, reinvest it into the people, and do it now.
Thank you. Any other regular announcements from our colleagues? Thank you. And just to that point, Councilman, and to Councilman Dorsey's point earlier, just note, in the future, we will be budgeting in a different way, in a more open way, in a more collaborative way, in a more transparent way that I think we all will be able to be proud of. Committee announcements. Councilman Henry, Equity and Structure has a committee announcement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I am announcing a work session on Wednesday, June 17th at 3 p.m. for the following 6 charter amendments that are still in committee. This is a work session. All of these have already had their official public hearing. Some have had multiple. But this is the opportunity that I would encourage all council people who still have questions about the charter amendments. I would encourage you to please attend, participate in this work session so that we can have one possibly final large conversation about all of these charter amendments before we have a voting session the following day for those that are going to be able to move forward. The first is, so at Wednesday, June 17th at 3 p.m., technically in the New Burns Council chambers, but really on WebEx so that everybody can participate. We will hear 19-0379, Charter Amendment Ordinance of Estimates. On that same day, at 3 o'clock, we will also hear 19-0381, Charter Amendment Removal of Elected Officials. We will also hear 19-0382, Charter Amendment City Administrator. We will hear 20-0489, Charter Amendment Board of Estimates Composition. We will hear 20-0492, Charter Amendment City Council Reduction in Size. And we will hear 20-0504, Charter Amendment City Council Composition. The following day, on Thursday, June 18th, at 3:30 p.m., also in council chambers and simulcast on WebEx, we will have a voting session for all of the same bills. I will tell you right now, I do not expect that all of them will be voted out, but I wanted to give maximum public notice that we do intend to have voting sessions on that day. At 3:30, we will start with Bill 19-0379, Charter Amendment Ordinance of Estimates, followed by 19-0381, Charter Amendment Removal of Elected Officials, followed by 19-0382, Charter Amendment City Administrator, followed by 20-0489, Charter Amendment Board of Estimates Composition, followed by 20-0492, Charter Amendment City Council Reduction in Size, followed by Bill 20-0504, Charter Amendment City Council Composition. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Before we close out, I do want to add another moment of silence for the mother of Mr. Rod Easter of the 8th District. His mother suffered from Alzheimer's for many years, and he took wonderful care of her. And her name was Mary J. Easter. So I want to add her to the list. Okay, the next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, June 22nd at 5 p.m. And may we have a moment of silence for Anthony Furnari Sr., Tyra Womack, Major Bullock, Mother Rosa A. Barber, Lorraine Lashinsky, Mary J. Easter, and the families of the 146 victims of violence, and also prayers for the continued opioid epidemic and people that are suffering from COVID-19.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the special meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council.